All right. Hey, welcome, folks. Mil-Spec Opsmonkey here. Listen, I have been asked many times to go to the next level when it comes to SKYGLASS, and I can't think of a better person to do this than Mr. SKYGLASS himself. Hey, brother, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate being here.
Yeah. And, I did a 101. I did that myself, and it was just barely, bare bones, scratch the surface stuff. But having you here to actually walk everybody through how this thing really works is incredible. And a perfect example of this is the pipeline data, right? It's just when we're looking at that, you sent me some of the data pools very quickly, and we were able to actually delve in and actually do some fact finding on the mission criteria that went into that. And it looks very compelling that the United States is probably behind the destruction of that pipeline. But without this tool, we'd have never been able to find it, because I will tell you some of the other flight trackers, the flight data for the air refueler was wiped. And whereas when it comes to SKYGLASS, because it is that crowdsourcing aspect, the data was there, and we were able to actually track it and find it and see exactly what took place. So again, welcome to the show, and I'm just so excited that we can kind of get into this. So let me do this. There's a lot of folks that are seeing you for the first time. You're kind of the wizard behind the curtain there in Ozland, right? And so, what if you could kind of walk us through how you developed this tool, because it is night and day compared to the others that are out there. So, what were you thinking when you designed it, and how did you get to where we are today?
Cool. Thank you. So, the idea really came when the FAA put out their mandate, and they're, changing all the transponders over to this new system, this new standard called ADS-B. And I was an aircraft owner at the time. I'm a pilot. I got about 500 hours of instrument rated. And I realized, boy, this, when I looked at the data stream and what was going to be available from, being broadcast from all these transponders, I thought, if we could pull this into a game engine and put it into 3 dimensions, you'd really have some amazing solutions. And at the time I was thinking, this is going to be perfect for like an AR glass kind of solution, in the cockpit, pilot flying, an instrument rate, in IMC, in the soup, you'd be able to have like superhuman vision, be able to see where all the other aircraft were, all the airspaces, all that kind of stuff. And so I got started in developing this. And when I realized that the tech really wasn't there, the glasses just have too much drift, they're not really viable for an in-cockpit solution, I decided to pivot. And about the same time I discovered you, and I thought, all right, well, let's just go to desktop and make this, an amazing 3-dimensional flight tracker.
Yeah, I will tell you, God works in amazing ways, and He definitely brought you and I together at the right time, and to do this. And so we've been just so blessed in having each other throughout this process. I've only been doing this about 2 years, and you were not far behind when I came out into the YouTube world using some very one-dimensional platforms. And when you showed me this, my head just exploded, because I'm a pretty big gamer, and this was like playing a video game to me. And just having the ability, for example, the pipeline flight, having that ability to watch that P8, where I was no longer looking at it from above, but I actually dropped down beside it, and I can see it actually start to do its descent. That is a game changer, because everything else you're looking at data that you can come up with the wrong decision and analogy, because you are looking at it from a one-dimensional standpoint. But when you turn it sideways, changes everything. So let's do this. I would love for you to just kind of start. I will give you the con and let
Before
you
we
just.
get into that, I just wanted to mention,
Yeah.
it's important to note that along the same time, like parallel to you getting started and me doing this development and the ADS-B protocol being, mandated by the FAA, ADS-B exchanges, which is the data source, and that entire crowdsourcing movement was also, ramping up in parallel. So now there's almost 9,000 individuals with, Raspberry Pi microcomputers and antennas out on their homes.
Yeah.
And that's what, all across the planet. And that's what drives this whole system. And because it's crowdsourced and there's no filtering, that's why we can see the military data. That's why we can see massed aircraft and have this whole other, aspect that we can bring to it. So
Yeah.
it's amazing confluence of energies and efforts, for sure.
Yeah. 100%. In fact, I'm glad you stopped me on that, because I've got an antenna on mine. I've got a warthog in my studio here, and an antenna on the side of my house, and I'm one of the feeders. And so, but you're right. It's that crowdsourcing thing element that allows people allows this equipment to actually see things that the other ones cannot or aren't allowed to show because of their contracts or regulated aspects with the FAA, et cetera. Where we don't have those limitations because we are crowdsourced, and it's kind of the raw data. So it's really, really nice. So, okay, so let me do this. I'm going to give you the con. I'm going to switch over and allow you to show your screen so you can start walking us through this, okay? And all right, so you got it. Let's start
Awesome.
going through this.
Okay, so basically we're here now. We're in SKYGLASS, and this is set up with the default settings that you'd have if you just started the app and after you've logged in. So the first thing I'm going to do is just scale the UI here, make this a little bit larger so it's going to be really easy for everybody to see. It's a little larger than I'd have it normally, but that's okay. So before we get started, just to kind of overview, SKYGLASS basically has two different modes, master modes. There's mil mode, military mode, where you're only seeing military traffic, but you're seeing it worldwide. And then there's standard mode, which we'll get into a little bit later. But standard mode is basically you've got a home location and you've got a search radius box that you can draw from, but you're at that point getting all other traffic. So you're getting also the military, but also standard traffic, commercial, private aircraft, and also this interesting class of data, which is the masked traffic, masked aircraft. And just to touch on that briefly, so there's a couple different programs within the FAA that people can basically pay to play. They register with the FAA and pay them to be wiped from the database. And so they don't get into any of these other feeds. But again, because this is crowdsourced, we can see all those types of aircraft. So, so we're now starting in mil mode, which is going to be worldwide. And just a quick note about the interface. So I've got a 2-button mouse. If you right click on the mouse, you can drag and change all the perspective, rotate the camera, and then left clicking will move the map around that way. So that's kind of how you move around. Another few notes about the interface. Obviously, you've seen we've got lots of icons, which are all the different types of aircraft. And then there's these little colored chevrons underneath these triangles. And the chevron actually represents the aircraft position. And those are colored in 3 ways. So let me turn off the icons real quick. And you can see that. So basically, green is going up. That's climbing aircraft. Blue is level flight, the sort of light blue cyan. And anything that's red, that's going to be descending. So that's kind of how those are color coded. So you can really quickly and readily see, who's going up and down and where the flight sort of vectors are. So let me turn the aircraft icons back on, and let me zoom into one so it's a little bit easier to see here. We got a nice little fighter down here.
Yeah.
So if we hover over it, a few things are going to pop up on the HUD. On the top right-hand corner, we've got a sort of larger display of the HUD. Heads-up display where we've got the aircraft icon, the type, the call sign that it's flying under, and other detail, the registration, the tail number that's often called, the transponder code, that's this 4000. And then you've got the pink is going to be the actual hex code. So that's the unique identifier of the transponder. Okay, that's what's referred to as the hex code. And then we've got all the aircraft telemetry, its altitude, its rate of climbing or descending, its speed and heading. Now, what's also interesting about this, the icon itself is inside the octagon. That represents the cardinal direction of where that aircraft is flying. So this F-35 that's right sort of in front of us, basically it's due north. As we can see, the heading is 359 degrees, so almost directly north. So you can quickly scan these icons and see what direction these guys are flying. So that's kind of the basic of that sort of first level of the interface. Cool?
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah,
Awesome.
Totally makes sense. And I love that we've got an F-35 on there. That's pretty rare, and you don't see fighters too often on this. And so to see an F-35, out there flying around is pretty cool. That's coming obviously out of Yuma Proving Grounds.
Yeah, right now he's 45 miles southwest of Maricopa
Yeah.
in Arizona. Yeah.
Nice.
Cool. So quick fundamental discussion about the menus. We've got two main stacks here. We've got this main button stack on the bottom right, what I call the main stack. And then we've got this auxiliary button stack, which you can show and hide with this last button here on the bottom.
Okay.
Also, just to note, I've got the pop-up help turned on, and that again is by default. And this is going to be very helpful when you're getting to know the app, because basically you hover over any of these icons anywhere, and it's going to tell you basically what it does, so you can quickly orient yourself to the app.
Okay.
So in this auxiliary panel at the very bottom, this is basically just a map zoom, zooming the map in and out. This next one is kind of like user interface stuff. You've got various different map styles. This is resetting the camera position. If you get in a position that you don't want to be in, you can just click on that, bring your camera right back to the center. And then this is important to note. We'll cover this in a little bit more detail. So this is a variety of sliders which control different parts of the user interface. The second one in, that's going to control the size of all the different elements on the screen, so you can kind of tune this so you can see everything in a little bit easier way for you and your monitor and your setup.
Yeah.
But the second one, or this third one over here from the left, that's really the distinguishing factor for SKYGLASS, what makes it all make sense, and that's the height adjustment slider. Yeah. So I'm going to bring this all the way down, and just to note, fully depressed all the way down, that's actual altitude. So as you can see, when you're looking really far zoomed out, actual altitude might as well be flat. I mean, it really is. It's very hard to see who's up, who's down, where everything is. Yeah. So this height adjustment slider is basically a relative height adjustment of all aircraft. So we slide this up and we can immediately see the different flight levels that everybody's flying at, especially if you kick your camera over to the left-hand side, or down to the side view angle. So that's how you adjust that. Now, when you're zoomed farther in on the map and really looking at a smaller local area, that's when you want to bring that down. Otherwise, everything's just too high and kind of off the screen. You're not going to be able to see it.
Gotcha.
These last two are basically just tuning your mouse sensitivity with a variety of different mouses or trackpads, things like that. And then this last one, it's a quick note, everything in SKYGLASS is tuned basically to barometric pressure. So it's important to note, though, that everything is driven by what's being broadcast from the transponder of the aircraft. And there's a huge variety of different transponders, and they all report different things. Some are going to report the aircraft type, some are going to report in barometric, others in geometric. And even some things are going to be, telling what kind of aircraft, or I'm sorry, what kind of equipment is on the aircraft, if it's in autopilot, if it's got TCAS, all these different things. So this slider on the right is if they're not broadcasting in barometric and they're broadcasting in geometric, this is how you can, tune all the different barometric aircraft out there. It makes a little bit more sense when you're zoomed into a local like at an aircraft position, or I'm sorry, at an airport level, and you look in the aircraft, because barometric pressure changes all the time, every day, every minute. And so if it's reporting in barometric pressure, that could actually be showing you like below the aircraft, or the flight deck of the what's the word I'm looking for?
The airport, or the field, or whatever. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Field elevation, exactly. That's what.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So this is how you tune that to sort of make everything sort of rectify from a barometric perspective.
But you really have to tune that during a hurricane,
huh? Well, it's amazing, and places like Denver, high elevations, things like that. You see these flight traces go right underneath the aircraft elevation, or the airport elevation. It doesn't make sense. So had to add this little slider to be able to tune that.
Okay.
So moving up from there, all these button groups are kind of grouped basically kind of by function. So this next one, we've got the different lists. We've got our we can show the aircraft type panel.
Yeah.
And this is really helpful if you want to look at just all the different types of aircraft that are loaded.
Right.
clicking on any one of these are going to isolate that type. So we're looking at this right now, just the K-35Rs, and you can deselect that, brings all the aircraft back.
Yeah.
I'm going to turn that off for now.
Okay.
This next one is going to be your watch list. We'll get into that a little bit more later. And then this one, we've got a favorite aircraft positions. I'm sorry, favorite camera and home positions. We've got a couple that are preloaded, so you can pop quickly from CONUS, continental United States over to Europe. But you can add anything that you've loaded in as a home, you can add that to their sort of favorite home locations list. And then the next one up here, excuse me.
Yeah.
This is sort of, well, I would describe this. So these are going to be controlling what's loaded and what's not loaded. So our first icon here is going to be turning on and off auto refresh.
Right.
This next one's going to be stopping all loading actions. So if you get yourself in a position where you're loading too much data and you want to sort of arrest everything. And then this last one is important too. In the same situation, if you got too much loaded or you want to switch modes, change your perspective, and clear all the aircraft, you click on this, and that's going to burn everything from the field, traces, aircraft, everything, the list, etc. So let me turn that back on. I'm going to turn auto refresh back on and load some traffic. So we get our military traffic back.
Okay.
And if I zoom out here, you can see we've got,
oh yeah,
worldwide.
Hawaii is active. Yeah, it's nice all the way over to Europe.
Yeah.
Very cool. One thing that is evident as I can see off in the distance are the high flyers. That's the way actually that you had actually pointed to these Millentel balloons being up because of the deviation slider there, where you can actually see the elevations. I remember the first time you and I were talking about this, and you were like, "Check this out," and you kicked it off to the side, and these things were at 80, 90,000 feet. They're just so far above all the other traffic, almost 2x what the other traffic is, and so yeah, it's just simply fascinating, man. I love it.
And super hard to see that from a 2D perspective. All of it gets lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, sure.
So this next panel here, this is all the different sort of starting to get into some of the advanced features. The sweeper basically will keep the aircraft that's loaded. It's kind of analogous to the ADS-B exchange persistence mode. So if you turn that off, then you're going to be in a persistent mode. Things won't actually time themselves off. If you turn the sweeper on, anything that hasn't been refreshed in the last few auto refresh cycles, those will get automatically filtered away.
Gotcha.
And we can talk about traces real quick.
Yeah.
Also notice when you click on, often some of these panels are going to activate another panel, which gives you more control, such as our trace depth. We can tune this down to just a few minutes, or even up to 24 hours, so we can see. Let's click on something and get a little traffic. So this one, we can see quickly where it came from, out in sort of the Spokane, Washington area, and then we can reduce that so we only see real short traces, or however you like.
Yeah.
So a new feature in 1.4 is you can turn traces on for all aircraft, and you'll also notice that they automatically adjust. So as we change the length of this slider, then we can see that trace automatically adjust.
Yeah, gotcha. Now, that's one thing I did notice. I accidentally selected the show all, and I got the warning up there that said, "You sure you want to do this?" Which I love. It's a good feature because it does make you realize, oh, wait a minute, I don't want to do this, because it's going to basically just power down all my data, and show everything. And so it is such a powerful tool, the trace aspect of it, especially when you start talking about 24-hour traces, because it's actually grabbing the flight every 5 seconds. Isn't that right? Or 5 minutes? It was every 5 minutes?
5 seconds.
5 seconds. Okay.
The data is pretty heavy in that perspective. So think about that. The historical database that you were accessing from, it's the aircraft position every 5 seconds going back from, I think, March 2020 forward.
Wow.
So, amazing it's there.
That's insane. Yeah, but that's the power of this tool, and that's what's so beautiful about it. So, okay, go ahead.
I'm not going to cover everything in detail, but I'll hit just on a couple more things. So this will turn off and on the different declutter options that you've got. And so right now, I think people are going to like this. You can turn on different parts of the HUD or the different, things for all the aircraft. So here we've got just the aircraft types and the transponder codes. We can also add to that all the different call signs, and the country code and the registration is in that next group. And then this final group is the telemetry. And you can turn, they don't have to be all at once. You can just limit just the telemetry, et cetera. So you can see, all the different types of different information for each aircraft. Hey, and we just had a emergency pop up. That's interesting.
Nice.
Looks like
oh, that's the F-35.
That's that F-35 that we were looking at.
It
Yeah,
sure is.
So 7600. I think that's lost comm. So he's got a radio problem.
Okay.
All right, so, yeah, let me turn that off.
All right.
All right. So again, this is just how to declutter your user interface so you can see, and really you're going to want to tune this to your, what you like. Some people are going to want to just focus on the different types of aircraft that are out there. And, you can use this along with the scaling of the map to really get your user interface, legible and, easy for you to see and determine.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. It looks good, man. Yeah, this is interesting. I'm watching that F-35 on there with the red stop sign. That's pretty wild. That's I'll be honest with you. Most of the time when I do see an F-35, if for some reason they always have an emergency squawk, and it's, it's a new aircraft and it's got it's a flying supercomputer, and so there's a lot that can go wrong with it.
Yeah, complex aircraft for sure.
Yeah,
that and helicopters, boy.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, I didn't touch on everything, but those are some of the major aspects of the user interface. You want to get into watch list now?
Yeah, let's do watch list. I think that's a fantastic step for transitioning, and then we can talk database too. One of the things that I think just blew me away was when you told me about the size of the database and how often it gets refreshed through this tool, and that's what blew me away when we couldn't find the hex code tied to the P8 that was doing the pipeline thing, is because this is a massive database, and for a hex code not to be in there is very, very interesting. I guess it's a data point, right?
Yeah, I agree. The database is such a powerful aspect of this of SKYGLASS. And again, to underscore, this is one of these pieces that's crowdsourced. There's over 500,000 records. I think there's 540 or some thousand records, and they're updated every day. And so every night, ADSBX puts out a new updated database, and you can refresh that right within SKYGLASS. So we'll get into the database more later, but let me talk a little bit about the watch list.
Okay.
So as far as the user interface goes, anytime that you see a banner icon, so like this K35R, we've got this icon in the HUD here. If we click on that icon and it turns green, now you know it's on your watch list.
Okay.
So that's a quick way to add things to your watch list. As you're hovering around, this just brand new in version 1.4, if you right click on any aircraft that's already visible that you've made in focus, that's going to also add it to the watch list. Okay. So it's just a quick way. So let me just pull up a couple more here. Gulf 5, that's an interesting one. Let me add that in. And that one's another K35. Let's do that too. Let's add that. So now I'm going to open up the watch list itself, and we'll see, and I'll talk through just the some of the basic functionality of the watch list header, etc. So I'm going to take it out of auto refresh mode so we don't get any sort of extra cycles going here. And let me talk about the watch list. So if you add something to the watch list from the field, it's going to be dropped into an automatic unassigned sort of group or category. So you can see all the ones that we've just added here. So we've got the aircraft icon. It'll have, the first thing it'll have will be the last, well, the first thing is going to be the aircraft label that you can put into the watch list. The next field is going to be the call sign and then the aircraft type. And so like this K35R was not flying with a call sign, right. So that sort of looks empty. So let's go here and edit this and say, all right, so this, we've got a mystery, and these are refuelers, if I'm right.
Right. Yeah, yeah,
K-35?
they're multi-purpose. They can be if they're showing as a 35R, then they'll be a or if they have a call sign, there'll be a refueler. But if it has a reach call sign, then it's carrying cargo. It can be multifunction though, so they can do both carry cargo and do air refueling. So
Got it. Okay, so you can add and edit the different labels for that aircraft, so you can give it some more meaning for yourself. You can also create. Let me go in here and let's create a new group here, and let's say these are going to be tankers. Whoops. So we're going to move this mystery refueler into its own new group here of tankers. We'll hit save. Now you can see we've got a different group listing here versus the unassigned, right?
Yep.
And then again, if you want to click on this icon, that's the banner icon, that would be to remove it from the watch list from this panel. All right, so let me talk through the functions that are in the watch list header. Moving from left to right, we've got, this is sort of the obvious load reload. So click on that. It's going to basically load the watch list from memory, and then also go through all the different watch list items and see if they're flying or not over time. This is going to be turning on and off the auto refresh for the watch list itself. That's separate from the field, right?
Okay.
So let's do this. Let me burn everything. And since our watch list is up, that's going to automatically load. But now you can see we're just seeing what's in the field that's on our watch list, right? We're not seeing all the other aircraft.
Yeah.
So that you can kind of limit your view to just what the watch list items are. This next button, very interesting feature. This is called a backtrack. And so if you add aircraft from the database, which we'll get into in just a second, clicking on this button will go back the last 60 days and look for its last known position and add that into the list here. So let me jump forward a little bit and show. We've got two different kinds of modes in the watch list view. We are viewing in sort of the label mode here, or we can change to last position. And the last position shows what your aircraft label is, and then its last known position that it was tracked, whether live or with the backtrack function.
Okay.
All right. If you click on this button, it's going to automatically group any unassigned aircraft into a group by what aircraft type it is. So I click on here. Now we've got everybody that's now categorized into their own group based on its type.
Okay, gotcha.
In the same way, if you've added an aircraft like from a hex code that's just sort of a straight hex code, so there's no other data on it, clicking on this button will go open up the database, search on the more information about that aircraft, and then add that into the watch list. So it'll pull its type and things like that.
Okay.
This next button will activate traces for all the aircraft in your entire watch list. So we can click on that. We'll show that you can see everybody's got traces, and we turn that up a little bit. You can see where the 6-hour traces for all aircraft. You can also do that by group. As you can see here, we've got all those are green now. And you can turn those on and off as you see fit.
Okay.
This next one, we've talked about the location mode. This next one will show only aircraft that are flying. And so all the aircraft that are in our list right now are live. So it's not going to make too much of a difference here, but we'll show that once we get some things added from the database. And then just to be able to tune your user interface a little bit more, this button will collapse and expand all groups at once. Here's how you can manually add a hex code directly from the watch, or into the watch list if you've got that, like you're pulling from a different aircraft flight tracker or something like that.
Okay.
Let me talk about the import and export. So if you want to share this with a friend, you can build up your own list, click on export, and that's where you can save this out to disk and then send it to a friend. And do the same way. You can import watch lists. I know we've got your watch list out on our Discord channels.
Nice.
So this is where, if you get that copy of it, you can import it directly into your list. And then, of course, we can burn the whole list. So let me do that, and we'll segue into the database now.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
So we'll burn our list. We've got a little warning here. Are you sure you want to do that? Say yes. All right.
Now, once you do that, there's no getting it back, right?
Well, if you've saved it, then you can automatically
Drop it back
re-import
in through the blue
Yeah.
envelope. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. All right. So here's our database. And again, we've got over 500,000 records, updated daily. If you look at the very bottom of this list or this interface, you can see when this database was last refreshed. So I did that this morning, so you can see it's a fresh copy. Let me get a little water here.
That's just simply amazing how easy that is to do a search function through this. Now, when you're doing the search function, are you hitting all caps? Because I did notice when I do mine, if I don't use all caps, sometimes it will not pull it in.
Right. So there's the field that's really case sensitive is this owner operator.
Okay.
So you can search on four different variables now. You can search on the ICAO, the hex code, the tail number or registration, the type of aircraft, or the owner operator. Most of my functions are going to be the type or owner operator. And the owner operator is the one that's really case sensitive. If it's, whether all caps versus whether lowercase. And, the database, they're in there in different ways. Some of that stuff is coming right from the FAA database. Sometimes those are in all caps, often they're not. All right, couple quick notes here. Searching on partial or exact match. If you turn this off, it's going to be the exact match. So that's important when you're searching on type. For example, type of aircraft C-17. We'll just do that now. Let me just limit returns to 100. So make this nice and fast.
Yeah.
If you put in C-17 and you keep this partial match on, what are you going to get? You're going to get all the Cessna 172s, right?
Oh boy, yeah.
So that's when you want to turn off the partial match. We'll do a quick clear, search again, and now you can see, now we've got the types are just the C-17s. So that's kind of the difference between partial match or exact match. So let me, as an example here, let's do P3s. I'm going to clear and I'll search. And the limit returns is important as well. Again, this is a huge database. So often if you're searching on something and you don't realize that, you'd left the partial match on and you're going to get the thousands of Cessna 172s, this is an easy way to do that, to limit your returns so you can test what you're searching on, make sure you're actually in the zone here, and then we can expand that. So let's make this like 250 now. I'm going to clear, search, and now we've got all the P3s that are in the database, which are 150. Okay. Another quick note, anytime you're in SKYGLASS and you're hovering over something and you see it turn green, like this P3 or the owner operator or the hex code, you click on it while it's green, that's going to put it on your clipboard.
Okay.
So that's an easy way to pull stuff and move things in and out of the app. So I'm going to drop down here into this enter watch list group name. I'm going to paste that. And I'm going to say this is our new group. Now with this one button, I'm going to add into my watch list this entire list that's been drawn from the database as a new group with this label on it.
Nice.
So I've got 150 added. So let me move this over and I'm going to refresh our watch list. And now you can see we've got this.
There you go.
P3. Now, of the 150 that were added, we've got only 2 that are flying because we've got this toggled on of only aircraft flying. So I'm going to disable that. And now you can see here's the entire list. Wow. But again, kind of not functional, to see, which one's flying. Oh, there's that one flying. Yeah. So anyway, click on the aircraft icon. That's going to limit the list. Deep co. I wonder what that means. Deep cover.
Yeah, it's interesting. Some of the names they put out there are definitely interesting. What is the little I don't know, it looks like a muscle man or a drone right there next to the green flag on your list. Can you explain what that does down next to the aircraft right there? Yeah. You click on it, it goes pink.
Yeah, so there's 2 ways to search or 2 different sort of APIs that I can call to find aircraft that are up or not. The most efficient, quick way is the primary search functionality, but not all aircraft will, well, let me put it this way. That search function is limited to those aircraft that are flying, that are putting out ADS-B broadcasts,
Okay.
right? Now, not all aircraft have those transponders or are broadcasting on that frequency. Older technology like a Mode S
Yeah.
transponder, if those that are familiar with aircraft and transponders, that's a different frequency. It's not as the position is not as accurate, and it's treated a little bit differently. So if you turn on this searchlight icon, then what that will do is activate a secondary search. So that's going to search for a different API that's got a broader sort of net.
Yeah.
And this is a great way to, like, all those high altitude military balloons that you like to talk about,
Right.
that we see peppered over Germany and over the United States. Those never will show up because they're not actually transponding with an ADS-B receiver. They are all Mode S.
Wow.
So the only way to see those in your watch list is to activate this secondary search function.
Gotcha. Nice. Good.
Cool.
Good. Yep.
So I thought this might be kind of an interesting example. You talk a lot about Brio 68. We always see that flying over Europe, right?
Yeah.
And I wrote down the hex code of that. So I'm going to enter that in now. We got the hex code for that aircraft is Alpha 6069 or 3. And I'm going to search by ICAO. We're going to make that an exact match. And I'm going to search. So you can see here, we'll talk through the different sort of the fields that come through with the search. Of course, we've got the hex code. Here's the registration in the database, the type of aircraft that it is. This is the short type.
Okay.
Basically, it's the same information, but this is just a abbreviated format. What year that aircraft was built, the specific model of that aircraft, the manufacturer of that aircraft, and here's what's the interesting part: this owner operator, right?
Right.
So let's pull the thread on that a little bit. I thought this might be good for people to see the example. So
Okay.
I'm going to hover over, it's turning green. So I'm going to click that. It's going to put it on my clipboard. I'm going to come back to the search field. I'm going to paste that. I'm going to change to owner operator. We're going to leave it as exact match. I'm going to clear our results and search again.
Ah.
So now we have the fleet that's owned by this owner operator, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so again, one quick move. I'm going to paste this into our group add by icon or function. Click on this icon. So now we've got all these different aircraft added into its own group. So we refresh the watch list now, and we can say, oh, only one of that aircraft or one of that fleet is flying right now.
Right.
So let me close this, and we'll move into this sort of next feature of SKYGLASS, which is flight history. This is one of the advanced features. It touches on the sort of time, what I call time travel mode, or what others call the sort of Wayback Machine,
Yeah.
right? All the aircraft data. All right, so you'll notice here in the group header icon, we've got this hourglass. So I'm going to click on that hourglass, and it's going to warn you and say, oh, we need to burn the field because we're entering into a non-live flight tracking mode. So we're going to say, okay. And what this does is we pull up a new panel here. A couple things happen here, actually. Let me clean this up a little bit. We've got our flight history panel. We've got all the different hex codes in this input box here, already preloaded from that entire fleet. Okay. We've got how many days we want to search. So I'm going to limit this just so we keep the demo a little tighter. I'm going to look back 10 days, and then we've got, this will activate the search. This is going to turn the traces on or off, and then this sort of resets the start time of this search. So if I click on that, that's going to reset our clock to now. Okay. It's important to note, if we wanted to start this search and go, what happened in July, you can go into this time picker here and pick what month or day or hour that you wanted to start searching on. But for our purposes of this demo, we're going to start from now going back 10 days. Okay. All right. Yep. So let me click on that, let this go. And already we're seeing all the different flights sort of populate on the map and in this list.
Yeah. Now, just for our viewers' sake, I know some of them are probably thinking, "What is LaSalle? What is this Brio 68 we're talking about?" If they haven't been watching me in depth on my watch list, these are basically spy aircraft. They're reconnaissance aircraft. They have the this company has as you saw, a little mini fleet of these that they offer those services, but they're very advanced. We see them a lot in Europe. We see them here clearly in the United States, doing a little bit of looking. That's pretty interesting. I do like notice the little corkscrew spiral there with the aircraft and its climb out and descent. I think that's really interesting.
I was just going to bring that up. Yeah, you can really tell. You've really showed me how these tight little circles, or you can tell a lot from the trace
Yeah,
of what the mission was that was going on in that aircraft.
yeah, exactly.
And so in the flight history, we've got a couple of different things here. We've got the date and the start time, end time of the trace, of the flight that was detected, and the length of that flight. And then we've got a sort of a quick way to jump to and from the starting position and the ending position of that trace.
Wow.
So yeah, I figured this was going to be over there in Hungary. And again, yeah, this is, you can see, here's that.
Tells the story, doesn't it? Paints that picture. That is what is so beautiful about this, about SKYGLASS, is that you now have a historical view and you can tell exactly where they're looking, because these are side-looking aircraft. They're not looking below. They're looking off to one of the sides. And in this case, they're looking all the way along the border of Ukraine and Belarus. But they're painting a battlefield, and that's the key. The agencies, the DoD, the Pentagon, they all are using these. They're like third-party companies. They're not necessarily military-owned or a DoD asset type of aircraft. They're actually third-party who offers this, kind of like what the feds would use in the United States if they were trying to gather intel on somebody. But they have all those same technologies. They can do man in the middle. They can do just a ton of different things. A lot like the R135, where you can look at an object the size of a soccer ball and track it from 300 miles away. These are probably even more advanced than what our R135s are.
Yeah, private aircraft. And most of these are going to be under, let's actually see here. Let me pull up the database again and look. It's interesting. I thought these were going to be flagged as LADs. But yeah, generally you'll see when they're flying, you can tell by the color if it's a masked aircraft or not.
Right.
Was going to also quick note, when you've got this height adjustment slider up, it's sometimes hard to see where, from the side, especially where that trace is actually over. So a quick way to handle that is just to pull this down and throw it flat on the map. And now you can see, exactly. what geography that was on top of.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty amazing. Now, can you explain? I know there's some that probably don't know what a masked aircraft is. Can you explain to the audience what you mean when you say what you're describing when you say masked?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me turn off the flight history mode. Let me just show an example. I think that'll be easier. I'm going to burn the field here so we can clear all the data. I'm going to switch modes from mil mode into standard mode, and I'm going to change our home location to let's just do Germany. So, and now you can see we've got this little green box here, which is the search radius box. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So basically we're going to limit our returns to just what's going to be inside that box. Okay. So for, keep things nice and quick, let me bring this down to like 100 miles, 150 miles. I'm going to zoom our map in a little bit. There we go. And I'm going to load traffic. Now, when I switch modes, a few different things popped up. We get this new panel here, which is going to be our declutter panel. And basically we can, let me load traffic and sort of do this as we go. So now we've got different colors. We've got our standard traffic, and that's going to be in blue. We've got, oh, wow, there's no masked air traffic. All right, so let's change our location here. Let's go DFW. So that's Dallas Fort Worth Airport. Just a quick note on this little entry box here. This is kind of a natural language search. You can put in DFW, which is the airport code. Some smaller airports, you need to add the kilo, the K in front of it in order for that to load. But other ones like LAX, San Francisco, they'll just take the straight 3-letter code.
Okay.
All right, so let me load traffic here. We'll see if we get some masked flights on this.
So the blue is going to be your commercial traffic, right? the yellows will be your military, and then the pink or that fuchsia color is going to be your masked aircraft.
Exactly right.
Okay.
All right.
Any mask in there?
Yeah, I don't know why. Let's burn and see what's going on here. Let's reload.
They're probably just outside of the radius. They got to be up. I mean, there's usually 10,000 of those things up. It's crazy.
Yeah, that they're not painting is a little interesting. Let's see here. Increase the. So again, a lot of the stuff you can do on the fly.
Yeah.
But this is where the burn. There we go.
There we go.
This is where the burn button really comes in handy, because once you get out more than a couple 100 miles, there's too much standard traffic that's going to bog down SKYGLASS.
Gotcha.
So again, decluttering here using the, turning off the standard traffic. Now we're just looking at the military or this masked group. So let me expand this even more now that we've got it decluttered so we can be efficient and quick. And I'll turn off the military and load again.
There you go. I can see.
Yeah, now we've got just a few more of those. Yeah, let me make it a little bit easier to see.
There we go.
So now when you've got the masked icons loaded, you can see we got a couple different colors, and there's two different programs within the FAA. LAD, limited aircraft data display. That's what that means.
Okay.
And that's what all these pink ones are LAD. And then they've got this other one, which is PIA. And that's the sort of very special. It's a very much smaller category, but these are the ones that have the rolling hex codes.
Gotcha.
So they're actually issued a short list. I'm assuming a short list of hex codes that they can rotate through. I have no idea what this XAA is, but I see it all the time. I'm assuming these are going to be folks like avionics manufacturers. They're going to be testing different equipment. I'm really not too sure about that. It's a small minority that's in this sort of PIA category. Most of them are this limited aircraft data display, the LAD program, all the your aircraft insurance companies and all the celebrities, all that kind of stuff. They all fly under LAD.
Yeah. They're also they can be called block aircraft, right?
Yeah, it depends on the other flight trackers that don't show them. They're going to be filtered out, blocked. I just kind of lump them all into the sort of masked category.
Yeah. Okay.
And again, this data is coming from they're still broadcasting, right? Because the transponders, that's unencrypted. That's clear view. Anybody with an antenna can pick up all the aircraft that are flying, and it's only because this data is crowdsourced that we're able to see, oh, that transponder is actually military aircraft, and so in the database it's flagged as such, right? So a lot of people have gone through a lot of effort to sort of determine who's a masked aircraft and that kind of stuff, because the FAA doesn't put out a list. Hey, here's all the ones that we mask, right?
Yeah.
That all has to be crowdsourced and sort of filtered through. So over time, you're able to get at that kind of data.
Wow. Powerful tool and very cool. Being able to do that. That's how, if you want to look for, like say celebs or whatever, that's usually you just filter by mask and then just pop your list up there and you can start looking at the names associated with those. I don't typically broadcast those because they go instantly butthurt level Bravo. They don't like to be tracked, and they can typically, sling a little mud at you, because if they're flying an $80 million aircraft, they probably have money to go after you legally too. So
they have a legal defense fund.
Yeah. So I'd say
I tell you, I've heard some stories of ADSB. He's gotten death threats from Saudi princes and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Telling him to scrub them from the feed.
Yeah, and I actually, there's a couple times where I've been looking at flights coming across back and forth across the border, and it's it's one of those super duper high roller aircraft, and it's probably up to no good. It could be agency related, whatever it may be. That I just purposefully take them off. I don't track them. It'd be the equivalent of being out there flashing Eric Prince everywhere. Where is he going? What's he doing? This plane, you can track it, but he's the founder of Blackwater, who does a lot of government contracts, and you probably don't want to make that guy mad. And so, it's just word to the wise. If you do it, usually it's just for your own entertainment. I wouldn't go out broadcasting where people are.
Good point. Absolutely, don't want to dox somebody.
No.
Sure.
Yeah. So, okay. So we've covered kind of how to build a database, what the database is like, how to build your watch list based on the database. Anything else we need to cover in this 201 session?
I think we covered a lot of ground. I think that's about it. Yeah,
Good. Okay. So let me ask you, what is, let me do this. I'm going to take the screen back so we can have just a conversation here.
you bet.
Okay. All right. Now I got the con. And so what's next for SKYGLASS? What do you have on the horizon? What kind of stuff are you working on? I always love to get, anytime you got the new betas out and you've polished a couple more things. I always love to hear what you're up to. So what's next on the list?
Thank you. So definitely some more refinements. There's a lot of optimization still to be had. I think there's some more features in the flight history, getting some more of the flight detail in there. Um, and everything really is, I think there's a lot of more headroom. We're into the fourth version now, and I think it's really starting to become a mature app. And a lot of the soft spots and the sort of dead ends have been, as I've been watching the users and getting a lot of great feedback, we've been customizing the UI. And even some of these new features like showing all traces from the type list, that came from just me watching you and I having conversations about what the purpose was of your intelligence and what
Yeah.
you were trying to add. So we're always listening to the feedback. I'm always listening to the feedback from all the users, and we add functionality based on that feedback, and that's really happened a lot in the last year, especially. We absolutely working on. I'm working on a mobile version for iOS and for Android, so that's already in the pipeline. And then right now, I'm also experimenting with doing graphical airspace information. So not just airspace like Class B airspace over different airports, but NOTAMs, the TFRs. There's a lot of very, very interesting stuff that when looking at it from a 3D perspective, again, being able to see it from the side, you get a lot more quick, intuitive understanding of what's happening. So that's some of what's coming.
Nice, dude. I can't wait. So, next question is, how do people support you? As you mentioned, crowdsourced, it's crowdfunded as well, to keep the lights on. I know I am very dependent on you. So, are you set up on Patreon yet? I know we had talked about you getting that going. Are you up and running yet?
Just started the Patreon. Yeah, you can find
Nice.
that Patreon/SKYGLASS if you want to support that way. Beyond just being a subscriber to the app itself. Of course, you can do that. It's $5 a month, and there's an annual discount. And that's for access to the SKYGLASS platform. I also want, one of the things that, eventually we'll get to is, building some community inside the app itself, having a friends list, seeing who's online, being able to share your watch list within the app. That's all going to be possible as well.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, good.
So, and if you want to be part of the larger crowdsourced community, you can get a feeder.
Yeah.
You're a feeder, I'm a feeder. We're part of that group.
Wouldn't you like to be a feeder too, right?
What's that?
I said, wouldn't you like to be a feeder too?
Would you like to be a feeder too? I like that. That's good.
Yeah. That's good.
So
that's good. And yeah, you can get all of this stuff in the shop. Now I know you've got merch on there as well. People can go in and actually buy stuff like what you got on. I know I've got one of your fancy coffee mugs, which is legit. I love it. It looks so sporty. And of course I'm sporting. I got the same shirt too, and all the gear. So now, so they can get merch. They can do subscriptions and ads. They can be part of the flight crew community on there.
Let me show you the breath mint. This is the mini feeder that I put together myself.
I love it.
Just to kind of show people what is it, what's in a feeder. Now this one's got a little battery pack. This is made for sort of mobile. It's got a little 6-inch whip antenna that's in here. But basically, feeders are just a Raspberry Pi. I've got a Pi Zero in here, and then this little USB stick, which is called a SDR, a software-defined radio. This is put out by the great people at ADSB Exchange, and that's what actually picks up the aircraft transponder signals. And filters it down, for use. It's called software-defined radio. It's a very narrow band of the 1090 frequency range, which is the transponder frequency band. And so this is sort of an on-the-go mobile feeder you can throw in your bag and become a feeder anywhere you want.
Yeah. We actually experimented with one of those with the breath mint. I remember calling you and going out to one of the parking garages and just going up to like the fourth story of the parking garage to see what kind of radius we could get out of that little 6-inch antenna. And I want to say we covered about 300 miles or so, wasn't it? The ring.
Absolutely. Almost 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was an easy 100, 150, 200 mile range, a radius, 400 mile diameter. Yeah.
Yeah. And so if you can
Pretty
do that
amazing.
off just a little breath mint, you can imagine like mine with the warthog and an antenna on the side of your house. I can see stuff all over the place in my region. So definitely a killer way.
And if you're a feeder, you can show that directly inside of SKYGLASS.
Yes, exactly.
We'll do another video on that.
Yeah, we are definitely going to come back and do that one. So, okay. So website for SKYGLASS, it's avrlabs.com/SKYGLASS. Is that right? Or downloads?
If you go to just to avrlabs.com, that'll drop you into the website. And then, the downloads page is where you can get the app itself. There's a Be Awesome hardware. That's where you can get the feeder information.
Love it.
And how to buy that. And then there's merch tab, etc. But yeah,
Awesome.
just avrlabs.com.
Nice. All right. Good deal. All right, folks, listen, I know you're watching this and remember, hit pause, back it up, do whatever you got to do to get comfortable with it. But this is a fantastic tool, and it has a lot of data that can go back in history. How far back does that go? Is it a couple years?
2020.
2020. Wow. So you can go all the way back to the election, so to speak, and look up flight data. Yes. Very powerful tool. And so, again, avrlabs.com, and you definitely, if you're interested in an aviation enthusiast like myself, or you want to just follow along with what we have out there when we show our sit reps, this is where you go and get it, and you will not be sorry. It is, I'm telling you, it's a life changer, actually. So, all right, brother, listen, I thank you for your time today, man, and I look forward to doing the next one. Hitting the next level, especially on the antenna side and the crowdsourcing piece. So that's it, man. Anything else?
Thank you so much. So appreciate the exposure and the time. You make this app sing. It's great to see it every week for sure. Love it.
All right. Awesome, brother. All right, folks. That's it. Listen, you guys be safe out there. God bless. Monkey out. Check out the latest gear and products at monkeywerxus.com.